What's up, Mail? There's a crazy conspiracy theory going on right now about Drake allegedly pushing forward an indictment on YG and using his money and influence to do so. And this was all initiated by Glasses Malone, a West Coast podcaster, used to be rapper and heavily affiliated with Kendrick Lamar. Just a very West Coast guy, just so you understand where he aligns.
See, he can spend that money and fuck with YG life. He can spend that money and fuck with YG life. Let me tell you what his mark doing. He's spending money and financing Draco campaign to try to fuck this boy life and get him arrested because he mad about a battle. He started playing me like that because I swear to God, that little shit get shot up and all that shit. I make his life horrible. All that shit he living in out here, that shit get burnt up. See, the difference is, it's like real power. See, that's rented power. You rent it, you pay for it. Real power, is when it's actually real, when niggas will do it for you just for the measure.
That part.
You don't want me to start kicking back in. You want me to start announcing to the world exactly what type of he doing. See, here, y'all be fans of and y'all want me to go. I'm not really tripping about, it's not an important topic, you wanted to do it. This ain't no conspiracy. This is a fact.
So this was very bizarre. Now, first off, you had the person that was bringing this to the forefront, this whole situation, because this all relates back to LA rapper Draco the Ruler's murder that happened years ago. Flacco, Poetic Flacco from No Jumper, well, really just Poetic Flacco now, he was the first person to bring forth, hey, this is the exact guy that killed Draco the Ruler. And Munchie B, who was a member of No Jumper and allegedly is like cool with the guy, he would say, I'll pass the bottle to Draco the Ruler's killer. He's cool with them. So he names this guy. Flacco names this guy. Later on, we see YG, not only YG, we see the California Highway Patrol. They pull up to No Jumper. Adam22 talks about they wanted to speak with Munchie B. They also wanted to ask him some questions. And then we see them, because this is still an unsolved murder. And then we see them pull up on YG. He gets detained before he had a show, the Versus battle with The Game that same night. So this is odd. But then YG he reposts this clip and says, say it ain't so. And then he says, red alert, B team tap in. Now B team is the gang that is like some blood set or something like that. I don't like to get too much into the gang stuff. So we need that for some pretext before we get to the next part. So the theory that they're trying to purport, I'm guessing not just Glasses Malone, because Karen Civil, who's close with YG, she would also say that, they need to turn this up in a now deleted tweet. But it initially was a real tweet. And Karen Civil is somebody that has a history within the industry, a history with YG. And there's a Karen Civil, a type on Drake's team. And I wouldn't say that they're at odds, but clearly Karen Civil does not work with Drake. And there's fixers on like most top people. Like, for example, Cardi and Uzi. I don't know if they have the same fixer type, because remember when Uzi pulled up on his ex-girlfriend Brittany and St. John, and she was pregnant, I think, and they said that he put a pistol to her stomach and that just poof went away. And Cardi, every single incident keeps going away. And also, Drake doesn't really have anything like that we've seen, which just goes to show maybe his people are even better, that it never even leaks or gets out to the public. But Karen Civil, she handles a lot of this stuff. She has a checkered past in that a lot of people have accused her of taking advantage of them. But when you're in a field like her, like digital marketing, people will pay her for stuff. She may give the services, although people have said that she didn't give services. But then if people don't get the results that they thought they would get, then they blame her and make her look bad. So that's why I don't want to fully just knock on Karen Civil. But she is somebody in the industry. So when she amplified this, it got really suspicious. And then Adam22 would say that he spoke to Drake and asked him some questions, which got me scratching my head.
They went back and forth. We don't need to rehash that. But it occurred to me like, man, that's so weird that Drake gave Draco a verse seemingly out of nowhere. And they hung out at the club one time, a couple little things like that. That's kind of crazy, right? So I asked Drake about that. I said, when you reached out and worked with Draco, was it partially to throw shade at YG? He said, absolutely not. He said that Oliver put him on to Draco and that he didn't even know about Draco and YG having issues until later on, i.e., like when Draco was already gone. Which, I'm not gonna lie, I knew there was like venom being thrown back and forth, but I just like, I wasn't tapped in enough to know that this was gonna go in this direction, that it was this serious, you know? I didn't know that we're gonna kill him. Anyway, that's just a tidbit that Drake made clear, is that him co-signing Draco was not a great way to get at YG. Now, what I didn't ask him, and I actually thought about it afterwards, and I was like, damn, I should have asked this as a follow-up question, but it would have been kind of weird because it was like hours later. But what I should have said was, did YG say anything? Now, the answer to that question, I might not be bringing to the table because I wouldn't want to share like a private conversation that I didn't have authorization to. But that would have been the logical next question. Did it piss off YG? Did YG feel a way about it? Because, like, let's be real. If Drake and YG are even kind of good friends, Drake doing a song with Draco's crazy. Like, what? You did a song with my biggest op? Who?
So the song he's talking about is a song once Draco the Ruler got out of jail because he was facing a murder, he had a song by Drake, Talk to Me. This song, I don't know if it charted, but it didn't do too crazy. Like it's at 113 million streams right now, so it's his biggest song ever. But before he died, it was a very odd collaboration. This is 2021, mind you. Draco the Ruler in 2021. Draco the Ruler is somebody that really, really blew up after he passed away. He was popping in LA for sure. And I mean, if you're popping in LA and California, isn't that like top 15 biggest markets in the world in comparison to countries as well? So that was an odd feature. And Draco the Ruler, like we said, he has beef with YG. So now there are people saying that YG was actually one of the people that stabbed Draco the Ruler. That's what they're saying now. Do I think that YG pulled out a knife and was in the crowd stabbing Draco the Ruler? I don't want to believe that, because I don't want to believe that YG is that dumb and that much of an nincompoop. But I will say that Drake is playing dumb here to Adam22, saying that he had no idea. Because if this is to be the case, we know that YG and Drake aren't so aligned right now. We don't know when that started. It might have been during the beef because YG kind of like took the side of Kendrick Lamar, if you want to say that, versus The Game, who we're going to get into. He's important context as well. The Game didn't show up to the pop-out concert. He didn't really show love to Kendrick Lamar or anything like that. He just stayed cordial with everybody and showed loyalty to Drake. So that means that the YG beef had to be pre-2021 for him to hop on a song with Draco the Ruler. And for him to say that, oh yeah, Oliver just showed me his music and I just hopped on. No. With how tapped in Drake is to everything going on in the game. We're talking about Drake was playing Kodak Black music in 2014 when Project Baby came out. And I had just discovered Kodak like 2 months earlier, and I was doing nothing but listening to damn near every new decent artist across the US. And I was a kid with no time, and Drake was that tapped in. You're going to tell me that Drake just sees a guy, sees his music, doesn't do any analysis on if he's got a movement, if he's got motion, and just hops on one of his songs. And keep in mind, this guy just got out of jail. So you know he went into jail for a reason. What was that reason? Drake is not dumb like that. And I think he lied to Adam22 because, keep in mind, he also lied to academics before. And this is where I'm going to circle this back. Chris Blake Griffith, who was the guy that I think he just won a settlement or something, that accused Stephon Diggs of doing some, like, I don't know, like pulling out his meat or something on him. The guy that accused him of that, he had a back and forth with Drake. So first, this guy, Chris Blake Griffith, tried to get on Academics' stream. And Academics asked Drake and said, yo, this guy, Drake said that he doesn't know him. He's never talked to him, something like that. And then Chris Blake Griffith leaks the DMs with Drake. And he shows it to Academics, and Academics says, well, listen, it's not my fault. Drake lied to me. That's where I got the information. Drake told me that he didn't know this guy. So because I said that this is fake, I'm not lying to you guys. I was lied to. So if he was already willing to lie to Academics, then we should accept the fact that Drake is willing to lie to Adam22 as well, especially with something like this, which is a lot higher stakes. So Chris Blake Griffith, he was talking to Drake, and he had an issue with something. He was like, oh, damn, gang, you unfollowed me. And he was asking him for some feedback on a mixtape that he released. And in one of the DMs, he says, Drake responds to this. And he says, you asking me to post a tape about you ratting on people, G? I just don't really come from a family or a friend group or a city where that's acceptable. I live by a code that's become law. We all just got to deal with our own ish off of here. Not telling you to be no super gangster or tell you what to do, but it made me feel super weird. You would think I would be into supporting that type of ish. Why do I think this is very important? Because if Drake listened to whatever this guy's got going on and said and was unwilling to amplify potential ratting, like he wouldn't be co-signing it, he wouldn't be the one quote unquote ratting, he was unwilling to amplify that type of thing with somebody that I don't even think he really knew, the guy that Chris Blake Griffith had issues with, which I think it was Stephon Diggs in this situation. Yeah, because he got beat up and all that. Then I think it's consistent that he also wouldn't want to amplify something against YG, even if he has beef with YG. Because I do think that, okay, if Drake gets arrested and he's in a RICO, do I think he's telling? Yes. What? But do I think that Drake is going to go out of his way to try to get people locked up? No. Do I think he would volunteer information about people? No. Do I think he would have it amplified? No. And this is evidence of that. So I don't think that's the case. However, people like an Academics TV and these other clip pages, like for example, Academics TV, he's very, very close with damn near all of the Drake fans. And he's a very, very well-connected guy in the clipping space, and he is willing to amplify something like that. So I could see him just doing that, not for Drake, but just because he doesn't like YG because he feels like he betrayed Drake. And you don't have to get paid to do something like that. So I could see that happening. And I think that is really what's going on. I don't think Drake is involved with something like that. And YG would have sent Drake a message, or somebody would have gotten in touch with Drake when he first reached out to Draco the Ruler. Because this song was teased. It was Draco the Ruler told him. Draco the Ruler at this time, he was just talking about like, yo, y'all know the truth. It was known that he had beef with YG. So this is all going on. As Drake, I believe he was 100% taking shots at YG by hopping on this feature. There is no other explanation other than ignorance. And are we going to believe that Drake in 2021, as big as he was, like he's been huge forever, but as big as he was in 2021, this is coming off of Tootsie Slide or whatever. I think this is also coming off of, dude, he had Life is Good at this point too. So he's still at the tippity top of the game. And he hops on a song with Draco the Ruler. Whenever he hops on a song with a quote-unquote, not random or whatever, they have a movement behind them. And he's aware of the movement and wants to tap into the movement. And isn't going to get into any politics. Like we saw with this Chris Blake Griffith guy, who he's not a rapper, but you guys get the idea. So yes, I do believe it was shots. But this is where we have to circle back to the game and YG. Because the game has always shown loyalty to Drake. But if he's hopping on a versus battle, buddy with YG, who is alleging has issues with Drake, and especially like these are deep issues. These aren't industry issues. These aren't even like slanderous issues, like a issue that he has with Kendrick Lamar, which I would say this is a level above where people are dying, people are potentially going to prison, people are getting investigated. Like this is very, very serious. Families have died. The amount of disrespect between these two. So for the game to link up with YG and still be cool with him, I don't think he's betraying Drake, but there's a lot more to this story that we're not getting information on. Like maybe it's just business. Maybe he talked to Drake about this before. Because for YG to amplify this Glasses Malone message means that he's stamping it that, he thinks Drake is after him. Or he is letting everybody know that he's not with Drake. Like he's not messing with him anymore. Even though these guys have a long history and hit multiple... Do they have multiple? I think they do have multiple songs, at least two. I know they have at least one hit that was on The second album, Still Brazy. Yeah, I think it was Still Brazy. So there's a lot of things going on here. I really am interested to know more, and I think more questions should be asked about the game's relationship with YG and Drake, because I think the situation between YG and Drake, if this is real, is a lot more serious than the situation between Kendrick Lamar and Drake. Although Kendrick Lamar clearly dealt a lot more damage to Drake. But when I'm public perception wise, but what I'm saying is YG here, like, this is life or death that these guys were dealing with, and potentially going to prison for not the rest of his life, but 25 plus. So yes, I believe Drake lied to Adam22 in this scenario, and I don't believe that Drake is paying people to amplify this, like, YG is the killer of Draco the Ruler storyline. I don't believe that's the case.